And we're live. Welcome to the Team Tank Podcast. We are the Lakers Outsiders. I am in a house. I have internet. Fuck you, Verizon. It took a week. Uh, oh my goodness, Verizon. All right. We talked about going on a rant earlier. I won't start the podcast with it, but Verizon, wow. Joining us tonight in a Kool-Aid Man shirt, we have Gary Kester. Gary, how are you doing? Yeah,
Pretty
D-bag.
good. I was just gonna say I don't think Verizon will ever ask to sponsor the show now. I think
Thanks a lot, Anthony.
We just burned that bridge.
Well, to be fair, if they sponsored us, every podcast would take a week to be put up because Verizon freaking sucks. So, we also
get at us.
Exactly. Oh, I miss AT&T. They were great while I had them. Also joining us, we have Harrison, who was the interim host. Harrison, how's your mouth holding up?
It's all right. Recovering relatively well from the surgery. So.
What'd you do to yourself? I mean, did Byron's quotes get to you so badly that you just had to start smashing your face into stuff, or what?
Bar fight. No, I had like a cyst in my lip that I had to get removed.
Oh, gotcha.
I figured it was the geese.
Not everybody lives in Girlsy. And then we also have Matt Vazen. Matt, when's the next marathon?
Probably sometime in the next 6 months, actually.
That's crazy.
It's fun. You should do it.
Gary, can Matt borrow some of those aforementioned Roid Rage geese for that marathon?
No, those are exclusive to me.
Shucks.
Good stuff. Well, it's been roughly a week or so since I was on the podcast. I'd say I miss you guys, but Gary's wearing a Diamondbacks jersey, so. Unfortunately I was working during tonight's Laker game. Harrison was manning the tweets for Silver Screen and Roll. What were your thoughts on a much closer game tonight between the Lakers and the Clippers?
Okay, first of all, one bad game doesn't define a player, but I may be starting to slowly fall off of the Ryan Kelly bandwagon. That was really, really bad. But it was really helpful to the tank, but it was really bad. I forget how many shots he missed, but it was pretty disappointing to see. Yeah. And then Clarkson though looked so much better tonight. And I noticed Doc after the game was saying we didn't execute our defense, we didn't do what we said we were going to do and what we did the last game. And that's not what I noticed. It just looked like he was doing a much better job of finding his release valves on the pick and roll rather than just getting panicking when he got trapped. And so it was good to see. If Ryan Kelly would have made a couple more shots, that the Lakers really could have won that game.
It was I'm glad he missed those shots then. Good way to go, Kelly. But when you talk about Clarkson, my quick note on Clarkson that I really enjoyed was that it looked like he made some serious adjustments, right? I mean, he struggled last game. If he went back, looked at the tape, maybe got a couple notes from Steve Nash. I'm not sure what all is going on behind the scenes, but Chris Paul was really effusive in his praise after the game as well, right? Yeah. I mean, he said he can play,
Yeah, no, he's definitely proving himself to be worthy of being part of the future plans. I think all of us were pretty hesitant initially to kind of is this real? Is this just like you would always say, Anthony, looter in a riot scenario? But it seems to be real to a degree. I mean, to some degree, someone has to put up stats on a bad team like the Clippers announcers were saying. But he's putting them up relatively effectively, and having some bad to mediocre games against Chris Paul, that's not necessarily a predictor of you aren't going to be good in the NBA. Chris Paul's the best defender of point guards in the league, arguably. So, I'm really impressed with him. I don't know if I could be more impressed with the second round pick. They nailed it.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk today and yesterday of should the Lakers build around or with Jordan Clarkson. I think that's a freaking dumb question. Like,
It's
you,
just an inane question. Like it's like any player. They're part of
yeah,
the building process. Like
yeah, it's just I don't know. That's such a knee-jerk reaction. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, they have something. They have something to look at from this lost season. Matt, were you able to catch much of the game tonight?
I caught some of it. I couldn't catch all of it. But I was watching part of the fourth quarter, and it was really random. I think it was Wes Johnson and Jabari Brown hit two bank threes. Like Robert Sacre hit like a 16-footer and then a hook shot over DeAndre. And in the first half, obviously as Harrison touched on, Ryan Kelly was way off his game. It's one of those random games that I thought where the Lakers were just so bad and they go on like a little bit of a spurt and they get pretty close, and then the Clippers starters came in and kind of just finished it off. And then there was the last minute took felt like 45 minutes, but
yeah.
we covered the spread and lost, which is what you can ask for this year.
Yeah, Gary, I believe you were in the same boat as I was. You were working during the game. But when I sat down for the game tonight, I just asked right away, hey, why are the Lakers relatively close in this thing? And right away I got like 3 tweets, Clippers bench, Clippers bench, Clippers bench. That's a serious issue moving forward. And we were talking a little bit before the podcast about how they might build with that team. Their ceiling isn't all that high, right?
Yeah, I mean, their starters are really good, so I mean, you never know. They could carry them to the Western Finals or win the West, maybe. I don't know. Personally, it's hard for me to picture them getting out of the second round again, I guess, just because they just don't have any depth. Those starters go out, and it's just a huge drop off, and they just get such limited production. I mean, they got to hope that like Jamal Crawford is just hitting shots and carrying the load offensively. And I mean, if he's not, I mean, it's like where are you getting your points from? In that second unit. So I mean, it's a major red flag for them going forward. Because it seemed like I was following it as much as I could on my phone when the two bench units were in. It was like the Laker bench unit was doing better than the Clippers were, and if you can't outscore the Laker bench, I mean, you're in trouble come when the playoffs roll around here in about a week or so.
Yeah, and that vaunted Lakers bench featuring whom?
No, the Jamal Crawford, Austin Rivers, Glenn Davis, and like Turkoglu lineup just isn't going to work
Rivers
against the elite team in the West.
He has to do a better job staggering them, I think, a little bit.
Yeah,
His
exactly.
lineups. You can't do a hockey line change when like Glenn Davis is your backup big. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work.
Well,
Yeah.
I think come playoff time, all rotations shorten,
Yeah.
and a lot of those guys there at that 8-9 spot, their minutes will be minimalized. But you still worry though. I mean, like those random games where DeAndre Jordan gets in foul trouble, like what then?
Yeah, exactly. Like if somebody goes down, gets 2 quick fouls, 3 quick fouls, whatever, it's like, man, they're going to struggle big time. So, yeah, it's that's why I said it's hard for me to picture them getting past the second round. But I mean, their starters are so good that they might. But yeah, it's going to be tough for them.
And to bring this back around to the Lakers, but I still consider it a missed opportunity that the Lakers wouldn't have, offered either an Ed Davis or a Jordan Hill or if the Clippers are that desperate, a Robert Sacre, if the Clippers just agreed to relinquish some of the protection on that second round pick this year. Right now, a pretty specific scenario where the Lakers get it, and if they just said, yeah, just make it unprotected, I'd have been fine giving up, Ed Davis, who the Lakers might lose anyway.
Well, I don't know. Like the late second round pick thing, if you really want to pick in that range badly enough, you could probably just buy one, like the Lakers did last year. They bought the 46th pick and it turned into Jordan Clarkson. So I don't know. I think Davis is worth at least keeping around to see if you can get a good deal for. Because if not, I mean, how often are you going to get, at least a solid rotation player with, the 55th pick in the draft? I mean, once in a blue moon you might, but if you can get Davis on a relatively reasonable deal, then I think that's far more valuable than just shipping him away for that pick that would be right at 55.
Look, to be completely honest, I would have traded any of the Lakers for your flock of geese at the trade deadline, Gary. Just get all the talent off of this team to ensure that they were not able to win any games after the trade deadline.
If you could get all these geese out of Idaho, I'll take whatever I can get.
Jeremy Lin
and Ed Davis running pick and rolls outside your house, honking at you.
Jeremy Lin's quote on heading to Boise, Idaho, apparently. So, so we are, kind of an awkward segue here. Man, I miss sending those posts, those buttons. But
you know that we die a little inside every time you do one of those.
my cat, I'm not kidding you right now. If I could have minded, I would. But my cat literally turned around in bed and is facing the other way right after that poem. I kid you not.
That's a good cat.
Yeah, she's mooning me at the moment. So, speaking of moons and maroons, if you want to go that route, but Byron had some interesting comments today. Byron Scott had some interesting comments that SB Nation caught. Was that Silver Screen and Roll that you guys caught it, and then it just went to SB?
It was the LA Times. He gave the comment in that LA Times piece, and then SB Nation posted a little grab on it, and it went pretty viral. But it was originally from the LA Times. Got to give that attribution.
Yeah. Well, whoever got it, I mean, it was.
I think it was Seth Rosenthal.
What was the exact quote? It was something about foxholes and all that shit, which is so Byron. Like, all right, but let me while I talk.
This is.
Why don't you give your immediate reaction, Matt, on Byron's foxhole comments?
I don't know. It repeatedly happens this year where Byron Scott just says stuff that there's just no need for. It's just like, even if you think that way, don't say out loud to the media, where it's just all it can do is hurt and you can't help another way. And this is just another example of that. A lot of people are saying that he should be gone, and I don't think so. I think he'll at least come back for another year. But yeah, I can't go another year with him just saying unnecessary things like what he did here today.
Like, for me, I just think it's completely unnecessary to air it in the media. Like, it's one thing if you do it every once in a while, and then I think it has an effect on players because they're like, oh, okay, he covers for us every time, and then, like, today he actually called us out, so that means something. But when you're doing it, a lot, and let me look up this number here. This is a little bit spoilery from a post that I have for Thursday. But according to my math, Byron has called out the Lakers, hold on. Yeah, about once every 9 games so far this season. On average, he's called them out in the media. I just using a little history post that SB Nation put together called "The History of Byron Scott Getting Angry About the Lakers Being Bad." Using that, and today, it looked like there were about every 9 games he called 9.111 games he calls out the Lakers in the media, which is just not a great look.
Here's the exact quote, again, from the LA Times. Quote, "I got a sense of a whole lot of them I wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with," Scott said after Monday's practice. "I think they'd end up shooting me in the back, so I've got a pretty good sense of the guys that I think are going to be around, that we will build together in this process and go through it." You know why they want to shoot you in the back, Byron? Quotes like that.
Where he literally just blasted the team in the back by saying that they would shoot him in the back.
It's incredible. This guy's lack of self-awareness is bordering on Fox News levels. He's terrible.
And I don't know.
It,
I don't know if you guys saw this tonight, but I saw. I think it was something Turner of one of the local papers. He tweeted out that Nick Young came into the locker room at 6:45, and Byron just told him like, "You're late. That's a fine." And like, I don't know if it was a joke for the media or whatever. It did. I don't think it was sarcasm. But I got that wrong with the Baxter Holmes quote earlier this week, so I got to be careful. But like, why on earth would he fine an injured player for being late? A guy that he just said is going to be out for the whole season.
well, when
Kobe wasn't even going to games.
they had that back and forth in the media earlier this week, right, Gary? Did you see that where Scott said, named a few things that he'd like to see more of from Nick Young, and Nick Young basically said, you know what, I take everything this guy says with a grain of salt. Like, he's losing the team.
Yeah, I saw that. And that was one of my concerns going into this season. I just had a gut feeling because everybody was like, Byron Scott is this militaristic style coach and all that, but that applies to everybody but Kobe. And I knew going in that that was going to be an issue, was that he was going to have some favoritism towards Kobe, which, yeah, sure, Kobe's earned it and everything, but it made me laugh when people said that Byron was going to keep Kobe in check. And it's like, no, they're like good friends. He's going to let him do whatever he wants. And that's how it's been. Like, he's had to like ask Kobe permission to do this stuff, and it was like, even with the minutes restriction thing earlier this year, he was like asking Kobe, hey, can I limit your minutes a little bit? And Kobe was just like, you're the coach. Like, whatever you do, whatever you decide, I'm gonna go with. And it's just frustrating.
But you're sure?
Yeah, it's like, so.
we're still good. We're still homies.
Yeah, that's why you mentioned the Baxter Holmes the quote like a few days ago or whatever, when Byron said that he was biased and that Kobe would be in his MVP or should be in the MVP discussion, because like, just seeing the text of it, you would think that he was serious. Like, you wouldn't think that he's joking.
Tweeted it as a straight quote with no context. So, but yeah, I went ahead and ran with that for a little short form post, and then it ended up he was being sarcastic, and I misunderstood. But yeah, that was
yeah. Well, I even made a tweet making fun of that. It was just like Byron like thinking, "Did I do good, Kobe? Like, was that what I was supposed to say?" Like, it's just irritating.
It's and again, like, when you make a joke like that, and when you make a joke like he made with Nick Young, and when you make a quote like today, that's that lack of self-awareness that, like, he somehow puts himself above this team because they're a quote-unquote, bunch of losers, and all the while never holds himself accountable for any type of mishap he might have during a game. And if I was on that team, I'd say at some point, hey, coach, how about going for, pinch post plays when we're down 4 with 15 seconds to go? Hey, coach, you had a timeout to call tonight, and you decided not to use it to advance the ball and potentially win a game. Hey, coach, you refuse to make any kind of adjustment, to the modern style of basketball. But meanwhile, you're going to call us out at every step along the way, once out of every 9 games, as Harrison says. Look, I really wish Latrell Sprewell was on this team. It'd be phenomenal.
That's my biggest qualm with Byron all year, though, is that he's never held himself accountable for anything that's gone wrong. It's always been on the players. Oh, the players got to do this. And I think there was even a time where I think Clarkson played well, and they asked him why. He's like, well, he stuck to the game plan. And he was like coming off of a bad game, and it was like it was all the game plan was why Clarkson played well. It's like, if anything goes wrong, Byron doesn't take responsibility for it. It's like, this team, I've said before that this team isn't bad because of Byron, but they're bad, just because some of the decisions he does make. Like, they would have some more wins if his coaching style was better.
The team last year won games, because of D'Antoni's system, right? Where they just got hot and they made a bunch of shots, and Ryan Kelly played out of his mind, or Wesley Johnson had the occasional crazy Wesley Johnson game, but like you never see that happening this year. You know,
Yeah.
the only games that the Lakers wind up winning, as an attribute to Byron Scott's game plan, are the games that he mucks up enough to have the other team get so bored that crap, we lost this stupid game tonight.
Yeah.
Matt, I know Gary made this point earlier, but I'll just have you build off it a little bit. But do you think his quotes or consistently throwing the team he coaches under the bus might preclude free agents from potentially wanting to play for him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it has an effect to a degree. It definitely doesn't help. So, that's a given. But again, like we've all said, it's just I don't understand. We don't understand why he comes up with these comments. It's just get to the end of the season. You're like 5 or 6 games away. It's been a disaster. It's not a surprise, but it's been a disaster. You just stay shut and let's just end the season next week. And it's just unnecessary.
Well, and I remember early in the season, it was probably 15, 20 games in. He was already talking about getting more talent next year. It's like, dude, you're not even a quarter way through the season yet. You're as the head coach, you can't be talking about stuff like that. You're basically just calling your team garbage, and they can't do anything.
No, and that's what some people were saying, Byron hasn't, none of the players have quit on him. They're all still supporting him and stuff. But the issue with, just taking the players at their word for it and what they're saying in the media is most of these guys are either fringe players or they're on one-year deals or both. And they don't want to go make a stink and have, when they're negotiating time on their next contract, be the guy that was calling out respected, apparently, somehow in the league head coach Byron Scott, or calling out, the Lakers or whatever, and end up getting blackballed or get it their reputation sullied. Ed Davis supported him today, so the team needed to hear that. And maybe Ed Davis really feels like that, and that's fine. He's entitled to feel that way. But I think part of that might be that Ed Davis's value last year was a little bit lower because some of his former coaches had bad things to say about him. There were all those leaked rumors about whether or not he had work ethic or if he had the highest motor or was willing to listen to coaching. And maybe he wants to kind of turn that reputation a little bit around as he goes to free agency. So you kind of have to take what the players are saying with a grain of salt because a lot of these guys, it's not guaranteed for them.
Right, and the most alarming thing to me is that Byron has a history of his voice wearing thin in the locker room. Him and Jason Kidd really butted heads at the end of their relationship as player-coach, and there was players unhappy with him in New Orleans. I remember David West basically spoke his mind after Byron Scott was let go. And, I mean, he called the system just predictable. He was like, we're going to be we're not going to be as predictable as we were before, and guys will believe in it more and all this stuff. And he didn't really hold back. So, I mean, he has a history of this stuff. So hopefully, when free agency rolls around, maybe these young guys that the Lakers might go after aren't aware of that history there. So, but we'll see.
Now, I at this point, this will be my last question for you guys, and then we'll kind of move on to this next little bit we have to round out the show. But I asked, I think it was last week or the week before, if there are any legitimate reasons to bring Byron Scott back, Byron Scott the coach. Matt, you mentioned that you don't see him being fired, but this is more a personal preference question. I personally would fire him as soon as the season ended. I think his quotes and his coaching style, rubbing players the wrong way, is a bad look for as being one of the faces of the franchise. I don't think he deserves to be back next season. Now, again, this isn't the question of do we think they'll fire him. It's if you were running the Lakers, would you fire him? Gary, I'll start with you.
I've never been a believer in firing a coach after one season with a team, especially this year, because the Lakers just weren't very talented, and then the injuries to go on top of it. Losing Randall one game in, losing Kobe, Nash wasn't ever going to play, and so on and so forth. So I've never been a believer in firing a coach after 1 year. Would I I mean, would I be sad if Byron got let go? No. I'd love to see a guy like a young candidate, like a Fred Hoiberg from Iowa State,
Huge
get a
fan of him.
chance. Like a hire like that, but that's so out of the Lakers' realm. They always want a big name with experience and stuff like that. So, I mean, personally, no, I wouldn't. But if they could get a guy like Fred Hoiberg at his expense, I would be all for that.
Harrison, what do you think?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know if you can fire a coach after 1 year, especially after they essentially fired Mike D'Antoni. They fired Mike Brown 13 games into a season. They had a little bit of an acrimonious, kind of weird split with Phil Jackson. I just think, and I also think the whole Kobe factor, I don't know if I would want to fire like his buddy Byron, like while he's on the way out, and then have to kind of deal with the repercussions of that and the negativity it would cast over his whole year if I'm owning the Lakers. For me personally, I'm right there. I would want him gone, but if I'm the owner of the Lakers, I can see I don't think I would do it.
I've always seen, as soon as he got hired, I always saw him as a 2-year coach, just like kind of as the gap from D'Antoni to whoever I would be like the coach for when we would, come back and be good in the future. I'd bring him back for 1 more year, but if you told me like he's going to be your coach in 2 years, then I would have a bit of a problem with that unless next year somehow turned out to be really well. But yeah, I always saw him as a 2-year guy.
My thing is, and I totally agree with Harrison's point of you don't like being the team that kind of has that revolving door as a coach, where you had, what was it, since Phil, it went Mike Brown, then Mike D'Antoni, then, now Byron, and then if they fire another guy, bring in that guy. That's all about perspective, public perspective. My thing is, like the Lakers next year are, unless they lose their pick, are probably going to be trying to be good next year, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And if so, I guess if they lose their pick, then hell with it. Keep Byron around. He's great at tanking, even on accident. But if they do keep their pick and they bring in a free agent and the Lakers are halfway decent, wouldn't it be maddening to have this guy leading that team? Like, what has he shown, whether strategically, whether in terms of team chemistry, that he could show, like that he could lead a team or make a team better than the roster would show, right? And if that's the case, you need every advantage you could possibly have in that scenario where you're trying to be better. So
I think it all
I
just
don't know.
depends who's available. Like if Gary mentioned Fred Hoiberg, if he's somehow available to get, then yeah, I would totally go for it. But I just don't know like what head coach you would bring in for this year that would make a drastic difference.
Yeah. Well, and they're rebuilding, so I mean, you're not going to get a guy like. Well, personally, I wanted Steve Kerr last year, but it seemed like the Lakers are pretty intent on just sitting there waiting and watching every option go off the board before they hired Byron.
They wanted a proven coach, a guy that had coached the team before.
Yeah, and that was, I don't know.
All that means is you've been fired.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I just don't see the Lakers rolling the dice, so to speak, on a young candidate like Hoiberg with upside, because they had plenty of opportunities this year. I mean, you looked at like Steve Kerr, Quinn Snyder, who is the head coach of the Jazz now, and he had a couple of options like that, and the Lakers didn't even give him a look. I mean, they interviewed Byron like 4 or 5 times, it seemed like.
I think it was actually 8.
Yeah, like it was a lot, which makes you wonder how like invested they are in him actually. Because I mean, if he was really like the number one option the whole time, why did it take so long to hire him?
Exactly. Yeah.
He oh man, I heard they had another interview actually before tonight's game, which is crazy. But I don't know. I like the Fred Hoiberg thing, and it's all circumstantial. I just man.
It'd be perfect.
All right. So no, I posed a question out there. We're getting some responses. Somebody just liked the post. Oh no, he replied. If I could, is this a trick question? That's not really a response. Abs freaking Lutely from at Trillstead. Jose Franco asked who. I mentioned you guys as you guys like Hoiberg. Jameson Welsh, a friend of the podcast, is not on board with that. So that might be something to have a conversation with him at some point. Man, it's. I tweeted out earlier today that like given how low the expectations were for the Lakers this season, given the roster and given how not on board I was with Byron Scott, that he hasn't managed to anywhere near meet those expectations, that's pretty damn telling. We mentioned the lottery in passing. We're going to play a quick game here. Oh, there's Daniel L. There he is. Who should we send to the lottery? Which lucky person would ensure that the Lakers keep their lottery pick this year? We're going to name one real one and one fake one each. I'll go ahead and... Nah, I'm not going to start. Let's go ahead. We're going to go in reverse order from my right to left. Matt, who do you have as your real candidate?
Jim Buss. If we send Jim Buss to the draft, obviously I want to keep the pick, but let's say worst case scenario, we don't keep the pick, it would at least be extremely entertaining to see everyone just blaming Jim Buss for not keeping the pick, and I don't know, it would suck, but it would at least give some form of entertainment for us not keeping it.
And it would, go a long way in proving that Jim Buss actually exists. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I want to make sure he's out there too.
Harrison, who's your real candidate for sending to the lottery?
So the person in real life, not joking around, I would actually want to go. Okay. Probably Kobe. Just because I think it would be. He's always pretty good for a quote or two, and I just think that keep the pick or lose the pick, he'd say something that was really funny, either intentionally or unintentionally, and I don't know, I just think it could make for some great TV with him there.
I mean, I could totally see him going on a rant against Dan Gilbert. In and of itself, that'd be worth it.
Just screaming at him over the CP3 veto while they're drawing the lottery balls. Just cussing. You can hear him in the background as the hosts are talking, just cussing out Dan Gilbert the whole time. Oh no, Dan Gilbert's not going to be there. Oh, that's sad. It's 2 years after they said they weren't coming back next year, but they finally did it. All it took was for LeBron to come home.
Yeah. He still might show up. If the Lakers win the lottery, he'll send another angry note to Adam Silver or something.
Yeah, redo the lottery.
Yeah. Al Gore move. I demand a recount. All right, so Gary, who's your real nominee?
Okay, hold on. Who did Harrison say? My connection was going out, so I didn't hear what he said.
I said Kobe.
Oh, you said Kobe? Okay. Yes. Mine's probably a little off base a little bit. I would send Ryan West to the lottery because I think we need some of the West family magic to come back to the franchise and have some good luck go our way for once. For those of you that don't know, Ryan West is, along with Jesse Butts, the head of the Lakers scouting department, and he's Jerry West's son. And he also, a lot of people believe he's the next general manager in line after Kupchak goes. So, and he's really a bright basketball mind. Really knows talent. They said that he spotted Jordan Clarkson relatively early in the process, and they just fell in love with his game. So I would send Ryan West, just like I said, it's time to get some good luck finally. And there's nothing like the West family and how fortunate they've been.
I I oh man, I'm gonna pay for this one, but haven't the Lakers dealt with enough nepotism like this after Jim Buss's passing? Like, haven't we found out what nepotism does for franchises?
But if it's not nepotism if the person is
Yes,
qualified.
I know. It's not the actual definition of nepotism. It's just somebody who happens to share somebody's last name and is now an eye for talent.
But he does though. He has a reputation for it though. So
No, yeah, no. I mean, if he found Jordan Clarkson, I honestly haven't paid enough attention to it. I know Time Warner ran a special little segment on his involvement in the process, and if anything, it would be good karmically for the Lakers, given Jerry West's departure the first time around and everything that had to do with Phil Jackson. So, no, I'm on board with that. It probably makes a lot more sense than my nominee. I'd like to send Andrew Bynum to the lottery.
That's your serious one? I thought that was your joke
I thought that
one.
was your joke one too.
No, that's my serious one. We talk about I always talk about how Jim Buss I think takes an unfair rap, and I think Bynum tends to take an unfair rap. And if he's the dude who happens to be there when the Lakers, miraculously get the #1 overall pick, wouldn't that just turn around his entire image in Lakerland? Like that'd be great. And then if the Lakers
It would be
lose,
sad though to see him celebrate and tear both MCLs though.
Oh man.
that's we could have inserted Derrick Rose for that joke there too, right, Harrison? No, if the Lakers lose their pick while he's there, whatever, it's Andrew Bynum. Move on.
he'd probably walk off the set, just taking his shirt off and just throwing it into the crowd.
He'd knock over John Barry or something. That'd be great.
He's like taking off his suit while he's like throwing it.
He's just taking off the tie and just getting it all.
Just clotheslines like somebody's kid on the way out.
And could you imagine the hairdo he rocked when he showed up too? Like that half braided, half fro thing he had going there for a while?
Yeah, no, that would be what he needed to wear.
Uh-huh. I like it. All right, so we'll go in reverse order this time. I'll lead us off with our joking ones, even though Andrew Bynum was pretty close to the joke. But today I watched the movie Now You See Me for the first time, so I figured we could have the entire cast of Now You See Me, so they could somehow rig it using their magical ways and make sure the Lakers win the #1 overall pick and just for good measure, picks 1 through 5 all the way around, because those guys apparently could do no wrong in today's movie. That was pretty phenomenal. Gary, who's your nominee for your fake pick?
So for my fake pick, and I would do this just at the off chance that we win the #1 pick, and just because I think he would just bust out and start dancing all over the place, I'm going to say assistant coach Mark Madsen. Because if they won the top pick, he would just get out there, he would take off the tie and everything and just start dancing all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anything to get Mark Madsen to dance again. That's always phenomenal.
Yeah.
Harrison, who's your nominee?
My nominee is, so the Lakers showed last year that they were willing to throw a little bit of money around at the draft. I think the $1.8 million they paid for Clarkson, I believe I was reading that's a record for a second-round pick. And so they showed they're willing to kind of put their money where their mouth is and buy a pick or do what's necessary to get the draft pick. So kind of hand in hand with your selection, Anthony, I was going to say that they buy the rights to Dan Gilbert's son, who won the #1 pick 3 out of the 4 years. And we just rent him from the Cavs for we throw him $5 million. He shows up in a purple and gold suit, dances around for us, and gets us. We walk out of there with the #1 pick.
I could totally see Dan Gilbert disowning his own son for doing this.
I feel
No,
like
we
if he
gave him
did that,
five. We'll throw him a couple million for it.
I feel like if he did that, we'd drop to the 6th pick, and his son would just like point at the camera and just like wink, and then just walk off.
No, see, I only really think that we need to get number 2 if the Knicks get number 1, because Phil Jackson's just going to take Matt Stainbrook because he wants the prospect with the biggest ass. So
I like it. Harrison showing off some of his own pain meds that Gary was on a few weeks ago. Matt, who's your fake nominee to send to the lottery?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer, really. I mean, the goal is to get the first pick, and you got to take the leader of the tank. So you got to send Teddy out there, or else I don't even know how we're gonna get the number 1 pick if he's not there.
Now, we are in somewhat of a crisis mode right now. Matt mentioned earlier that he has not been able to locate Teddy.
I don't know where he went.
What's the progress we're seeing there?
Yeah, no progress. He's still out there.
I'm gonna have to gather up all my geese to just, orchestrate a search to go find him.
I'm telling you, we may have found like a new prospect for leader of the tank. He's been waiting here. He's been working in my scouting department all year.
He's waiting for his moment.
He's our Ryan West. He's ready.
Yeah, Gary West's son. Sweet. All right. Well, on that note, now that we've involved, that was one of our more out there podcasts in terms of shout outs to everybody. So, I am really excited to be back. Fuck off Verizon. I mean, thank you Verizon for getting my internet taken care of after a week. Quick backstory on that, because I'd like to rant about these assholes.
We need a bleeper for this podcast.
Oh, we do so bad.
It would make it more entertaining if you got bleeped every time too.
You got to do the bleep and then the little black bar over his mouth.
Yeah.
You can't even read his lips.
Would that be great if our sponsor, if it was like Mr. Goodbar was right here?
We could sell ad space on your mouth. That's prime real estate.
That'd be great. But all right, so I move up to the hills here in La Habra, and this house that I moved into is roughly as old as Donald Sterling, and I warned Verizon. I told them when we moved in here, I said, hey, I'm living in this ancient house. It's essentially a freaking castle, minus the size. I need a technician up here because I'm absolutely sure they do not have any kind of inherent DSL connection within the walls of this thing. Oh, no, you'll be fine. No, you'll be great. Guess what, Verizon? I got my shit installed for free because of that great take on your part. I just had to wait 8 days for that to take place, and poor Harrison had to host the show again last night, or 2 nights ago.
I'm
Verizon,
developing my skill set.
Yeah, I mean, if I get replaced here, I'm suing you guys for all the money I could have made, all of Daniel's minimum wage time that I could have made as host of this thing, because Harrison was able to log in enough host hours in my absence. So thanks a lot, Verizon. Martin, you were great when you showed up today, but everybody I spoke to on the phone, Verizon, get your shit together. Come on. You're worse than Byron, and that's saying something.
Wow.
That says
So
a
on that
lot.
note, I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's that. I might have crossed the line. I apologize, Verizon. I don't, not at all. But yeah, no, it's great. It's great to be back. It's nice to see everybody. Gary, never wear that shirt ever again. Harrison, thank you for stepping up in my absence. Matt, thanks for showing up tonight. Ryan did not show up because he's the resident prima donna, and I'll be reaching out again to guests for the next couple weeks as we get ready for the lottery. So we'll talk to you guys soon. This is us signing off.
Thank you.
Thanks.